the 28th day. It's the 28th day, am I correct? Yes. The 28th day in the month of February. And I do believe, sorry, April. Now, I do believe Africans around the world are calling for some sort of protest in support of Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. But anyway, we'll just might touch on that one in the course of the program and why there is a need to support him at this time. But let's get into other conversations. I am Moses Humphrey, and today on our plate, Tinubu and Wike push to reinstate Fubara as Rivers governor. Tompolo speaks. Oh well. Welcome to the conversation.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Chukwuma Okoro. Away from that, Nigeria under Tinubu leads the world in extreme poverty. Now, this is coming from the World Bank.
Also on our radar today, Tinubu under pressure as rural violence in northern Nigeria claims hundreds of lives. We'll x-ray all this during the course of the program. I am Fina Okechukwu at his VOP this morning. Also, we have other interesting topics or interesting stories that kept the social media buzzing during the weekend. And one of it is that the Senate President Godswill Akpabio led a 5-member Nigerian delegation to the funeral of the pontiff himself, that's Pope Francis I in Vatican City. That was on Saturday. According to a statement by Presidential Advisor Bayo Ononoga, the delegation included Ambassador Biaka Ojemegwo Ojukwu, Archbishop Lucius Ugoji, Archbishop Matthew Kuka, and Archbishop Ignatius Kaigama. The team also delivered President Tinubu's condolence later to the acting head of the Vatican. There, the president also made us understand that it's quite symbolic, you know, the demise of the Pope that happened on Easter Monday when people were going to Galilee. And he said that shows that he lived a good life, someone who actually known to be a humble person. So he said the Pope Francis lived a good life, and the way he died also made it's so obvious that heaven also get a sign. But also, this particular delegations or this delegate that went to represent Nigeria there in Rome also sparked reactions. Some persons are beginning to ask questions. Why will people go to Rome to, you know, commiserate with the Catholic Church over the loss of the pontiff, when we know that Nigeria is kind of, let's say, burning or bleeding, let me use that word, you know. And the likes of Vincent Martin Osei, VDM, criticized the fact that the president of the Senate, the number 3rd man in Nigeria, went to Rome when people were being killed in Enugu, in some parts of the north, you know. And that also made some persons also to counter him. We learned that APC from the South have given VDM 7 days ultimatum for him to tender an apology, you know, yes, to the number 3rd man in Nigeria over the criticism that he leveled against him during the weekend.
Well, absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong in the president appointing who to represent Nigeria at the burial of the Pope. And the president chose a known Catholic and some Catholic leaders as well. So, I mean, countries were represented right there. So the president of the Senate, just, you know, like the right person, you know, to be chosen to lead the delegate. But what very dark man? Yes, that's the moniker he goes by. What he said, I mean, it's not far from the truth. It's not far from the truth. We've had killings in different parts of Nigeria in the past 1 month. In fact, in the past 2 or 3 weeks, Nigerians have been killed in their hundreds. How many leaders have gone to these places to commiserate, to encourage the people and promise or assure them that they will have justice? How many leaders? Even the president was speaking from far away UK at the time when he said, look, certain governors should take political decisive action. But the country still bleeds. The country still bleeds. And then the Pope dies, or somebody from outside, you know, somebody within the Western world dies, and you're sending letters, you're sending delegates to go meet them. How about your people? In some of the climes, a president might be away and then hears that there is chaos. Maybe one person dies. The president comes back to the country to speak to the people and assure them that, look, the perpetrators will be brought to book. That's what we need. Unfortunately, that's not our case in Nigeria because our leaders don't understand the issue of charity beginning at home. They would rather, appear good outside, but then care little or care less about the people. Very unfortunate, I must say. But to those that have given VDM ultimatum, anyway, let's just see how this one pans out.
All right, Moses, I don't see anything unfortunate about it because you also said that charity begins at home, that Nigeria's charity begins abroad. Exactly what we have, Nigeria's charity begins abroad. For the optics, it is good that in the conduct of diplomacy, it is good that Nigeria sent a delegation, to represent Nigeria, at the burial of the pontiff. But a lot of people, including myself, have problems with the people that were sent, or the person that led the delegation. I'm talking looking at Godswill Akpabio now, who led the delegation. He shouldn't have been the one to lead the delegation. What it clearly tells us is that, like Adewale Adebayo says, Nigeria is a country that does not punish small crimes. Because of that, big crimes thrive. We are looking at a man who has question marks. The case is already in court. So, the fact that the case is in court is enough reason for the leadership to say, look, step down. Bishop Kuka could have led that delegation. It doesn't matter. Bishop Kaigama could have led that delegation and not a Godswill Akpabio. So it speaks to the character of the leadership that we have in this country from start to finish, start from head to toe. That is it. People can paint words if they like. But that is a presentation of the leadership we have in Nigeria, from the president down to the least person in government. They don't care. They don't give any shit about, they don't give any hoot about us as a people. I take back that word. But that is what it is. And for the optics again, we also saw a picture, that came out of Vatican where the leader of the delegation,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The leader of the delegation who already is answering questions, has question mark about his character, smiling and looking raunchily at somebody beside it, and
come on.
It's not easy to behold the queen.
The law of Igbo land, and I was like, can you imagine?
That's the picture on our screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Come on.
Where did you get that picture from? Can you imagine? That is the law of Igbo land, and somebody, the leadership. So it's good that we had a presentation.
Yes.
By the way, she's the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, so she ought to be there. So where was where were Bishop Kaigama and Martin Hassan Kuka in all of this?
They were with the clergy.
They were with the clergy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, at the back of it. Okay, it's okay. So it's a good thing that
he
we were
wasn't
presented.
looking at her in this picture.
Are you interpreting?
I know.
From what view are you seeing this?
I will come off like I'm trying to defend Akpabio.
No, you can defend him. You can defend him.
He wasn't looking at her in this picture. If you zoom into this picture, you will see that both of them were looking in the same direction.
Did you check the eyeball? Remember that he has a shade on him.
Both of them have eyeglasses on.
Yes.
If you zoom into this picture, you will see that they were looking at the same direction. That's the direction of the cameraman or whoever it is. So he wasn't looking at her.
Even if it was, the truth of the matter is that, look, it's good to behold something that is beautiful. But you also have to restrain yourself, about content and all of that. Anyway, that is it. Thank God we had a representation. At least Nigeria was represented at the international forum, especially the burial of the pontiff. But most of all, the world expects a pope from Africa. Yes. Because of those the world expects a pope from Africa because of the 15 people, I think we have 3 from Africa. There is one from Ghana, there is one from Guinea, and there is one from Congo. Unfortunately, the Ariza that is from Nigeria is 93. He's way past that age. He's beyond 80, and it's only people below the age of 80 that get elected. So the conclave will start meeting, I think, after 6 days or what, to elect a new pope. So the world expects a pope from Africa. Not an African pope, but a pope from Africa.
I also expect such, because I can recall.
But whether it will happen is another ballgame.
But if that did not happen, Chikuma, then that would speak more to politics playing out even beyond what we're seeing.
At that point, the world was not ready for an African pope. And I'm not sure that even as we speak now that the world is ready. If you look through what goes on in the Vatican, how you know, there is this kind of racism that is
Yes.
very
Yes,
prominent. You know,
exactly.
blacks are not hugged, blacks are not greeted, they are sidestepped in the process of presidents and all of that. So it clearly tells us that, look, so out of those 139 cardinals, how many of them are African? So I'm not sure that Africa will get a chance. Very few of them.
Africa doesn't stand a chance.
Okay.
Let's be
very
realistic.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now let's come back to Nigeria, where suspended Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpabio
And Akpabio is back in the spotlight.
Has issued a sarcastic public letter to Senate President Godswill Akpabio, mocking the notion of an apology for accusing him of sexual harassment. Though framed as an apology, her message was laced with satire and irony, amplifying defiance rather than remorse. Now, this comes weeks after her suspension from the Senate over a dispute involving sitting arrangements and a subsequent televised accusation that Akpabio retaliated after she rejected alleged sexual advances. Her letter, released while Akpabio is in Rome for the late Pope Francis' funeral, ridicules the political dynamics in the Senate and challenges what she describes as an expectation for women to comply with inappropriate demands. Well, despite a court order preventing both parties from publicly discussing the case, the letter appears to blur legal lines under the guise of parody. Akpabio closes the letter with a pointed sign of yours in eternal resistance, unafraid, unbrought, and unbroken. Well, the letter is out there in the public, written by Natasha. When I first saw the letter and apologized, I said, wow, what's going on? Is it more like she's abandoned her supporters and all of that? Has she buckled under executive pressure, under the pressure from powers that be to say, look, you have to apologize, otherwise we are going to deal with you much more than you even anticipate. But when I read through the letter and I saw it was more like a satire, sarcasm like it is said, and she said quite a lot. She said quite a lot that some of the things are even unprintable, you know, about elections and other things. And at the end of the day, she said she's unafraid, she's unbought, and she's unbroken. Well, it speaks to the resilience of Natasha as an individual, and a lot of people are also still queuing behind her to say, look, we are solidly behind you. If you are very sure of what you are alleging, then Nigerians, in our own character, are going to support you. But I think why Natasha is also raising this issue at this point is because the thing is more like taking a back seat. You know what happens in Nigeria when something happens. We suffer from collective amnesia. I have to tell you, we suffer from collective amnesia. When something happens, after 2 weeks, something bigger happens. And the other one trails off. Nobody follows up again. So I think what Natasha is trying to do is to bring the issue back to the table for further discussion. And it shouldn't die. That discussion shouldn't die. And like I said during the first story, it is unthinkable that a man that is answering questions about that kind of, misdemeanor is also the person that went to represent Nigeria at the Vatican. What does that tell you about our country as a people? I think it speaks a lot about who we are as a people. Not the right place to go, not the right direction to take. Wow. If we want to build a Nigeria that people, this generation and future generations will be proud of, we must have to punish minor crimes so that the bigger ones do not thrive.
I'm forced to read this letter. I know it's up there on the screen, but I think we should just, look at it. This is from her verified Facebook account, and it reads, from the desk of Senator Natasha Akpabio, dear distinguished Senate President Godswill Akpabio, it is with the deepest sarcasm and utmost theatrical regrets that I tender this apology for the grievous crime of possessing dignity and self-respect in your most exalted presence. I have reflected extensively on my unforgivable failure to recognize that legislative success in certain quarters is apparently not earned through merit, but through the ancient art of compliance of the very personal kind. My goodness. How remiss of me not to understand that my refusal to indulge your request, in quote, was not merely a personal choice, but a constitutional violation of the unwritten laws of certain men's entitlement. Truly, I must apologize for prioritizing competence over capitulation, vision over vanity, and the people's mandate over private dinners behind closed doors. I now realize the catastrophic consequences of my actions. Legislation delayed, tempers flared, and the tragic bruises of egos so large they require their own postcodes. For this disruption to the natural order of quid pro quo, I bow my head in fictional shame. Please, find it in your magnanimous heart, somewhere buried deep beneath layers of entitlement, to forgive this stubborn woman who mistakenly believed that her seat in the Senate was earned through elections, not erections. I remain yours in eternal resistance, Senator Natasha H. Akpoti-Uduagha, unafraid, unbought, and unbroken. Well, that's the said letter. That's the said letter that has got Nigerians talking about this issue again. You know, just when some Nigerians have, pushed it behind with the resurgence of other issues, Nigerians tend to have forgotten, and she has brought this back. But I hope she will not be accused of flouting court orders in all of this, talking about this issue in public.
But she said,
she
sent an apology letter.
It's an apology.
Yes, an apology letter as well.
Because I think the order was not to grant interviews.
Not to grant interviews.
Not to grant
Okay.
interviews.
It's
All
just
right.
an apology. I have never been so proud of my gender, unapologetically. I have never been so proud of my gender the way I was. when I
You
went
always.
through- No,
You're
not
always proud of your
always, because the lady who
No,
championed
but
the-
there's nothing wrong in being, proud of your gender all
Yeah.
the
I
time.
am saying it now for the world to know. This is going to, I know maybe 10 years down the line, somebody will wake up and say, Fina said this on Voice of the People television. Maybe I'm somewhere chilling in Bahamas or somewhere and they'll bring up this.
That's right.
But I have never been so proud of my gender. Reading through this particular letter of apology, I don't know who she is. I've not really been able to see her face to face.
Anyway,
I
let's
think
get
I need
on
to see
to
how this-
other
No, don't get onto it first. Let us talk about this.
Okay.
Unbroken, unbought, unafraid, she tendered the apology. Do you remember? There was a part you read that tickled my fancy.
It will tickle your fancy.
You know
because
why
you
it
like
tickled my
wahala.
fancy? It was.
All right then.
But anyway, I pray and I also hope that we're going to get justice at the end of the whole thing. I pray that the court will also come up to give us the judgment they have regarding this, back and forth, the saga between the Senate President and Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduagha.
Oh yes, and I think it's 6 months. Her suspension was for 6 months.
Yes.
How many months left? I think about
4 months.
maybe 4 months left.
Will it be extended?
Yeah, to see.
I doubt if it will be. I doubt if Nigerians will take that one, if there is an extension to her suspension. Her people need to be represented.
Yeah.
They need to be. Anyway, let's move on to another conversation now. The Obidient Movement has launched a digital platform for members' registration and the issuance of unique identity cards originating from the 2022 surge in support for Peter Obi, the Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate. The movement described the portal as a symbol of resilience, focus, oneness, strength, and beauty. But according to leaders Yunusa Tanko and Nana Kazure, the portal is open to both Nigerians and supporters in the diaspora. Nigerians in the diaspora, of course, and maybe some of the individuals who are not Nigerians but supporters. I don't know if that's the case, but it's open to Nigerians within Nigeria and Nigerians outside Nigeria. And I hear the identification card will have some sort of flag that will depict where you are, where you are situated, and it will be something that one can there'll be QR codes on it, so you can scan the QR codes, check identification of people. That way you know exactly who you're dealing with, especially if you want to do business with individuals that call themselves obedient. Now, it's an interesting move, I must say. It's an interesting move, but I think it's late in coming. I think this would have come up way before now. I personally think, I might be wrong in this, but I personally think the obedient movement is gradually fizzling out. Nigerians are beginning to, just give up to fate and say, look, whatever comes our way, we'll take anyway. But if this can reawaken that desire for a new Nigeria and, be that spark in the obedient movement, then it will be a good one. Yeah, but like I said, it cuts across Nigerians abroad. Can Nigerians abroad vote? That's a question that we are still waiting for INEC to resolve and give answers to. At the moment, they cannot vote. But if Nigerians abroad can, decide who becomes, from where they are, of course, decide who governs Nigeria, then it will be an added advantage if this movement, touches them as well.
Okay, I think there are many talking points about this, what Obedience are trying to do. And Moses, permit me to disagree with you at this point. I think what is what actually lost momentum is not the Obedient Movement, but the Labour Party. Because the Obedient Movement got that kind of spotlight, they got that kind of momentum because it was an election period. And you saw how they were able to drive it in a space of less than 6 months. So what has quieted it is because practically there's no need for that. But in the lead up to the 2027 election, I think what they have done is to conduct a shadow election. Conduct a shadow election. Let them know the number of people that will subscribe to this Obedient Movement platform. And it's also a challenge to the APC and the PDP. If you think that you are doing very well, create your own platform. And let's see the number of Nigerians who are going to subscribe to your platform. By the time, like a month, or like a year to the elections, let us see the numbers for the Obedient Movement. Let us see the numbers for the APC. Let us see the numbers for the PDP. More like I said, a shadow election. So, unfortunately for the APC, they are already playing into the hands of Nigerians by not doing what they are supposed to do. Look at insecurity, look at the economy, look at World Bank figures, look at IMF figures. IMF says one thing today, World Bank says another thing tomorrow. They are even confused because, as usual, the Nigerian economy defies the basics of economics. So, because of the way it is structured, you don't even know what is happening tomorrow. Everything is just about guess estimates. IMF guesses today. Tomorrow they come back to say, oh, no, looks like it's going to be like this. So that is to tell you that the people that are running the economy don't even have a handle on it. And that speaks to the challenge that we have as people, as Nigerians, as a country. Now that the Obedient Movement has come out to say, look, let us get our numbers to even see how many people that are still supporting this Obedient Movement and supporting the government is a right step in the right direction. We have more than 2 years away from the, more than 18 months away from the 2027 general election. It's a lot of time to plan and replan and do a lot of things. This is more like a structure that the Obedient Movement is building. They said in 2023, they said they didn't have a structure. Now they are building a structure. Let us see how far they can drive this momentum.
Will the Obedient Movement devolve into a party?
Maybe they will just take it and dump it somewhere. If they are leaving the Labour Party, they will just dump it somewhere else.
Okay.
But for me, I applaud this particular move, reason being that I think it's high time Nigerians have been crying about that a whole lot of persons there using the social media platform will go all out to hide under the guise of one movement or another to, if not insult people, perpetuate one or two evil and all that. But with this, I believe those who are not Obedient Movement members now will not be able to infiltrate this organization or this group, and start attacking or start saying all sort of things on social media or against the government, But if other movements or if other organizations, we have so many other CSOs in Nigeria, if they can actually create something like this for their followers or their members, also, I believe it's going to help also check the issue of I'm looking for the right word to use for that now, but it's going to check the abuses. Let me use that word. The abuses that people are being subjected to. Maybe verbally or otherwise, not just on social media, even outside. Some persons have been attacked, on the guise of you belong to this, you support this group, support this movement. So, we've seen something like that happen before now. But with this, if other people will emulate from this particular move, it will help to check that.
Sorry, before we leave, just 30 seconds. You see, Moses, you talked about diaspora voting. I recall that as at November 2022, people couldn't get tickets back to Nigeria up until March because tickets, all the airlines were fully booked. A lot of people came in. I'm not saying that they came in to vote for Peter Obi, but Nigerians in the diaspora came in to vote. Not for anybody that I know, but they are very, very much interested in what is going on in Nigeria.
That's why INEC should endeavor to make it possible for Nigerians to vote from wherever they are. Just walk into the Nigerian embassy over there and be able to cast your vote. I think that can be done.
Yes, it's possible.
if
we mean
if
to
we
do,
graduate
we can do
to
it.
the
I always
yes.
tell you that TSA is working. That's about the only thing that works. Because we want it to work. It brings in money.
All right, then let's get into newspaper headlines now, as we do have some stories from the dailies that we need to put out to you. So, starting off with the Vanguard newspaper, we have these headlines here. Tinubu to opposition, don't blame me for inability to manage your affairs, says democracy not threatened in Nigeria. Defections, Oboriwori Omoagege battle for Delta APC leadership. The writers to that story, ex-deputy Senate president insists he is party lead. Delta governor, my leader, Kiyamo. Shatima, Ganduje, 10 governors receive Oboriwori Okowa today. And then, we must resist one-party state agenda. Akinola, Odinkalu, Jinodru, others. Outrage over World Bank's report on poverty in Nigeria as CSOs demand urgent actions. Stop playing politics with people's lives. ActionAid tells FG. It's a sobering picture for Nigeria at Deyonju. And yes, those are the headlines on the cover page of the Vanguard.
The Daily Independent is up next, and the winner headlines are Tinubu not weakening opposition nor dismantling democracy presidency. Stakeholders converse support for Wike'S customized exams. And we have the banner headline to be new EU rules. Nigeria may lose $20 billion cocoa revenue in 3 years. Right to that story, experts charge FG on more concrete, consistent actions. Syrup asked Zuckerberg Meta to pay $22 million fine or face legal action. NDLEA raids Lagos hotel, recovers 1.042 billion naira illicit drug consignments. Crowds flock to tomb of Pope Francis as ICE turn to conclave. Fitch upgrades Lagos, 3 other states to stable. Sanwo-Olu thanks Lagosians, promises more action. Another bold headline on the cover page of the Daily Independent. Visa restrictions to UAE cut passenger traffic on Emirates Airlines. Economy seats drop by 50%, say travel experts. The bottom strip headline. Right activists profile solution to reverse political crisis. Those are the stories you find on the cover page of the Daily Independent.
And let's quickly run through the New Telegraph with the banner headline. LCCI, revenue targets imposed on FG's agencies strangulating investments. Says goals disrupting projection in AFTA, spurring firms exit from Nigeria. Now you have more stories. And Q1 2025, and that's oil producing states, 13% earnings, up 15.3% to 993.93 billion naira. Heritage Bank, NDIC commences payment of 46.6 billion naira first tranche liquidation dividends. That story is on page 7. Now the window headlines. APC, Oborowori, Okowa's defection shatters PDP. Tension, lobbying in Delta as cabinet reshuffle looms. Lawyers slam Niger governor's order on Togri. 61 sanctions for violation of Freedom of Information Act. Army, is a crime for civilians to wear military uniform. Bars soldiers from harassing offenders. Tinubu, Wike doing everything to return Fubara as governor. Now that's coming from Tompolo. And 240 workers receiving double pay. 217 share same BVN, Kano government. I'll take that again for emphasis and clarity. 240 workers receiving double pay. 217 share same BVN. That's coming from the Kano government. Now in Canada, 11 people killed as car plugs into street festival crowd. Oh, that's quite unfortunate. 5 traders shot dead, 7 injured in fresh Benue attack. Schools, worship centers, markets shot. Defections, democracy not under threat in Nigeria. Presidency says no government policy seeks to weaken opposition. Movements decimate opposition parties. And the bottom strip, study links malaria to childhood cancer. And there's a picture out there of Tony Lumelu. It's the picture of someone who is smiling to the banks. You know, he's done good business.
All right then. Well, those are headlines that we have for you at the moment. At 10 o'clock, we'll go deeper into more headlines and we'll be dissecting these stories for your benefit, of course. That's a newspaper review from 10 all the way to 11. In the meantime, Tompolo, non-state actor, some would say, former militant leader, now an employee of the government, claims that Tinubu and Wike are working to reinstate Fubara as Rivers governor. Let's x-ray this when we come back. Join us again.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more.
Join me on Sundays every 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People TV.
Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy.
Everybody keep watching Voice of the People. All right? Love you all.
Hello, sweetie. What's going on? My name is Kiki. Keep watching VOP TV. Thanks.
Hey guys, what's going on? Olumide Oru, the Fresh Prince of Lagos here, and this is VOP TV, guys.
Hello guys, I want you to please keep on watching VOP TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hafiz Oyetoro. Please keep watching VOP TV.
Shout out to VOP TV.
Very big shout out to the fans and lovers of VOP TV. My name is Tayo Fanyuro. I'm an actor that you are going to live to love. Keep watching. Cheers.
Hi everyone, so shout out to VOP TV.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more.
Join me on Sundays every 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People TV.
Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy.
Step into a world where stories unfold, secrets unravel, and dreams come alive. Every story has a legacy. Every legacy holds the power to inspire. A unique interview series that celebrates the lives of Nigeria's elder statesmen and women through their remarkable journeys in the military, diplomacy, public service, academia, medicine, and beyond. Conversation that transcends generations, offering guidance to youth leaders, diplomats, technocrats, and future change makers. We unveil the wisdom, resilience, and achievements that shapes our nation and the world. Join us every Sunday on Voice of the People Television. Reminiscence, legacies that leads the way, stories that lives on.
The red carpet.
Step into a world where stories unfold, secrets
Well, thanks for joining us again. And this is VOP This Morning on VOP Television. Of course, Government Ekpomokpolo, popularly known as Tompolo, says President Bola Tinubu and the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, are making concerted efforts to reinstate Siminalayi Fubara as Rivers State Governor. While speaking in an interview, Tompolo assured that Fubara, suspended amid a political crisis, would soon return to office, emphasizing that Tinubu remains committed to protecting democracy. Now, the political rift between Fubara and Wike, as described by Tompolo, where he said it's a dispute between boy and oga. And the dispute between Boy and Oga has reportedly been resolved, with Fubara even meeting Tinubu in London to negotiate a return. Well, he seems to be privy to something that Nigerians are not privy to. Meanwhile, renowned human rights lawyer Femi Falana, SAN, has questioned the attendance of Rivers State sole administrator Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, at the National Economic Council meeting held at the presidential villa in Abuja on Thursday. Falana pointed out that NEC is composed of the vice president as chairman, the governors of all states, and the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria as per the Central Bank Act. Well, welcome to the conversation, and we do have Barrister Darlington Aguma with us in the building. Barrister, good morning to you. Good to have you join the conversation.
Good morning, Moses, Fina, and Okoro. How was your weekend?
We also have with us Mr. Sheson Okunade, who is a chartered accountant, tax professional, and a transport administrator. It's chartered on all, chartered on all sides. Good morning and welcome to the conversation as well.
Good morning, Moses. Good morning, Fina. Good morning, Prof. And good morning to our viewers across the globe.
Good morning,
okay,
Ceci.
now I would like to start, take it from the ground up, according to the story. Barrister, let me start with you on this one.
Yes.
The sole administrator appointed, is there anything wrong in the sole administrator attending the NEC meeting, seeing that these are state administrators? They were all the governors administer the states that elected them into office. Mm-hmm. But the sole administrator, and I use the word there, loosely too, but the sole administrator is also administering the state. Is there anything wrong?
Very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. Legally speaking, that man is a non-state actor. It is as bad as Tinubu's son, Sheyi, attending the same meeting. They are non-state actors. They have no role in government, especially in a democracy.
Can you point us in the direction of the Constitution that backs this up?
That backs what?
This non-attendance or this wrongdoing.
Look, that meeting is for what? State governors, ministers. Okay. Are you getting what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Maybe the president or the vice. Mm-hmm. And head of an institution like a CBN. They are the ones who suppose...
But the sole administrator is acting in the capacity of a governor of a state.
Mr. Okoro, I'm sorry, Mr. Moses. Ab initio, that man shouldn't be there. That's what we are saying. You cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. No matter how long that man stays there, it's an illegality. That office is occupying is an illegal office. He has no role to be there. The Constitution says so, not me. The moment we continue to tolerate this thing, we are destroying our democracy. That is what we are saying here. That man shouldn't be there. Remember that the House of Rep invited him. He didn't attend. He did not, twice. They are the ones who are supposed to oversee the state legislature in Rivers State.
But on Friday, he went to meet them. They had a closed-door meeting with the House of Representatives. So the sole administrator of Rivers State appeared before the House of Reps. He did that on Friday. So
okay, now hold on. When he appeared, please, did you tell us the outcome of the discussion?
I think it's left for the House of Representatives to tell us what happened after that meeting.
The state legislature is not to be discussed in secrecy. They are there to represent the people, but this man have hijacked that office. So even inviting him is, I don't even know for what reason.
Now, when you say he hijacked the office, Barrister Darlington, you can recall that when the issue of the 23 local government sole administrator that he also appointed in River State came up, we learned the presidency also dropped, a memo saying that he's working, the direction of the president. So how possible is the sole administrator of the state to hijack the activities of the state without the knowledge of the person who appointed him in the first place to be there?
Both the man who appointed him and the man that was appointed, they are all acting ultra-virus.
And yet, National Assembly supports that too.
Outside their powers.
Sorry, before we bring in Shosho, Barrister, I would like for you to tell us, is it proper that in everything that is happening, do you think that Rivers State should not be represented at the NEC? And you understand what the NEC is, National Economic Council. This is a meeting of the 36 state governors, like you said, with the Minister of Finance, the Central Bank Governor, FIROS. And in all of this, should there be a vacuum in Rivers State? Meanwhile, like Moses said, he is there to administer Rivers State, and the governors on the flip side are also administrators. It's just, what is there anything wrong in it? It's just a matter of name.
Now, if you want somebody to represent you, the right person should represent you.
Who is the right person?
The right person is the governor.
But the governor is on suspension.
Let them reinstate him.
Why? There's a state of emergency in Rivers State.
No. The state of emergency did not say that you should sack the governor.
Barrister, is there any part of the constitution that says that the president cannot appoint a sole administrator in a state of emergency?
My dear, go and read section 305 that he is using as his guide.
Okay.
Show me where the sole administrator was mentioned on that particular section of the constitution. None. So that is what we are saying, that office is an illegal office that is occupying.
So, that particular.
Let's get
so everything he's doing there is not a voice.
Let's get your take on this one before we get into the Tompolo aspect.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm not a student of law. And you see, the issue that we have in Rivers State is complex. And I will always say, in as much as two wrongs don't make a right, we should look for a safe way and the best way to get things done. Mr. President, with that state, and nobody is defending the court of the state that is administering, then the people will suffer. So I want to say that in attending that particular meeting, administratively, for me, is what is justifiable.
Okay.
But legally, it may be wrong, and I will continue to refer to that thing to say the two elephants that are actually fighting are the major cause of the problem for the people of the state who do not have the interest. People always say, don't allow the wall to crack for lizard to penetrating. They allowed the cracked wall, and people took advantage. Mr. President took advantage and used it in his favor, which anybody can do. Whether it is legal, whether it's illegal, I keep telling individuals, if we do not put ourselves together, the 6 months can actually be extended.
When you said the president took advantage, that pricked me a little bit. Are you implying that the president is not working with Wike on this one? Is he, because some people have said the president is doing the bidding of Wike to ensure that his structure is restored to him. But if you're saying the president took advantage, it gives the impression that the president is working out his own scheme, his own things, away from Wike and anybody else.
Well, I would say I don't know whose side Mr. President belongs to.
Considering the fact that regardless of the fact that Wike worked for the president in 2023 elections, the PDP still won the state. So could it be that the president is trying to put things in place to grab the state?
Yeah, well, politically, they might be discussing that. As far as I'm concerned, I want to consider Mr. President as being neutral. And we all saw what happened between the House of Assembly and the state, which they call Pro-Wike, and the governor. I expected that the two parties, if they have the heart of the people they claim and not the selfishness on their part, whether it's Wike or it's Fubara, if they have the interest of the people they are actually serving at heart, they should have had a common ground, not to allow that state of emergency to come up.
Okay.
So I will continue to say that until the two parties come, and thank God from the plea that Tompolo gave to us, there is a common ground, both parties. I think I'm referring to him as the senior special assistant or advisor to Mr. President on Rivers State issue, for him to be coming out to give us information a lot of us don't know. But I will continue to say that the two parties needs to come to common ground with the State House of Assembly to give the people of the state the democracy that they all voted for.
I think Tompolo has been quite vocal about Rivers State. He's been giving us snippets of information, from inside Aso Rock, more like opening a window for us to look into the heart of Aso Rock. But let's see how all of that pan out. But Barrister, before we move back to Tompolo and all that he said, there's something I want us to understand about this issue of state of emergency. Barrister, I want you to let us understand a state of emergency the meaning of a state of emergency with a sitting governor and a legislature. What is emergency in that state?
We have a precedent that was set under Jonathan.
Okay.
When he declared the same state of emergency in 3 states in the north.
Okay.
The governors were there. The state assemblies were there.
Okay.
You only put security measures to
like
arrest
security measures like
that deploying the military to take care of the insecurity in those areas.
Okay, so that is the meaning of state of emergency.
Yes, because the governor does not have control of those military apparatus.
Okay, now before Jonathan, we had an Obasanjo who also declared state of emergency and removed the governors.
Yes.
And the people that came more like came to solve the problem.
Yes.
Now, if you say that a state of emergency exists where a governor is in place, the legislature is in place, and more like the state is flooded with security agents like soldiers and all of that. Is there state of emergency in the southeast? Because the governors are there, the legislature are there, but in every nook and cranny of the southeast, you still have soldiers everywhere. Is that a state of emergency?
Now, Ms. Okoro, please, let me say it again. Whenever you want to compare two things, don't compare the incomparable with the comparable.
How?
Because what you just said now is incomparable. The state of emergency, I've told you why and how it should be declared, especially if you go to section 305. It was clearly spelled out. What Tinubu did in Rivers is selfish interest.
When Jonathan declared the state of emergency in these 3 states in the northeast,
there was a reason.
Okay, there was a reason.
Yeah,
was the problem solved?
Of course.
The problem was solved. The problem that we still have up until this moment.
No. At least election was conducted. Yes, election was conducted in those areas. That was the actual reason for that. When the Obasanjo did it in Plateau, you saw the mass killing that was going on. As a military man, I won't even blame him. And I won't even use his own as a pilot guide. Because he did it illegally by removing the government.
A lot of people will assume that you are being selective in your choices. You approve of this one, and in the same breath, you disapprove of the same situation at different times.
No, hold on. We are trying to situate situations here. In Rivers State, please, was there any mass killing? Was there lawlessness? Did law and order breakdown in Rivers State?
The president had information that there might be a breakdown of
law. No, please. In law, you don't presume. If we start presuming in law, that means you and I will not be here.
But
somebody will just see you and say, I presume you are a thief. You are not to rob.
Somebody knows that if you check it out, it's saying in law we don't presume. But in Nigeria also, that presumption is also allowed. And that is what will make security apparatus to say, you look like someone who can carry out a crime.
You don't do that. We don't do that with the life of a state, with the life of a people. You don't presume.
So it's selective. Okay, hold on. When it gets presumption, we selectively presume things.
Hold on. Now tell me, the law and order breakdown in Rivers State up till now, comparable to what is going on in the north? The answer is no. So you can see, you people are even wrong to trying to massage what Tinubu did in Rivers State. It is completely wrong.
We are trying to understand.
I am telling you,
Shosho did agree that what is going on in Rivers State is a complex.
It's not a complex thing. No. You made it complex yourself. Tinubu made it complex by his own selfish interest. Mr. Okoro, this governor tried all he could to implement Supreme Court judgment. You now hijack it and place a state of emergency. Why didn't you tell the lawmakers and Wike, allow this man to do what the Supreme Court said now? Mr. Okoro, wouldn't that have solved the problem? Answer me. If Tinubu meant well, why didn't he tell those people, allow this man, he wants to implement Supreme Court judgment, allow him. He was there, just working towards an answer. And you people keep blaming the man. Right, I don't like it, please.
Barrister, now that we have this information from government, Ebomopolo, saying that in no distant time that Fubara will be reinstated as the governor of Rivers State. He also pointed out the fact that both parties is more like they've reached a wonderful agreement. Recall that Fubara went to go and meet the president in London when he was there. He visited him, and we don't know the outcome of that. But all we could get was that when he returned, he made a statement telling Nigerians, the people of Rivers State, to continue supporting the president in his works in Nigeria. And here we're getting from government, Tompolo, that the president is one who so much loved democracy. You recall what happened, what he did before the emergence of 1999, when the civilians also took over the power here in Nigeria. Now, with this happening, Do you think that the 6 months will be cut short for Fubara, or are we seeing another extension if things go south?
Fina, it is even an insult for you and I to be listening to Tompolo. This is a fugitive, a non-state actor. On what ground is he talking about this?
If it's an insult to you and I, then what will you now say about the nation that also employed him? Remember, he was being given employment by the government to help to map our pipelines.
That is what we are saying, that illegality is now the order of the day. If not, on what ground will a Tompolo, who is a wanted person, a fugitive, be talking? And the government just allowed him. Now look at it. That is when people talk about marginalization, selectivity. This is the issue. Do you know that another person from another region may be on the same category with Tompolo today, and he comes out to make a statement, the entire village will be ransacked to get him. True or false? But now this guy, for whatever reason, he's still talking, telling us when Fubara will be reinstated and all that.
When you say that he's a fugitive,
yes.
Recall that this person we're talking about, he was given a very good, when I say a very good position to help man what Nigerians say to be their major source of revenue generation. He's to protect the pipelines and the trade so that it will not be attacked by unscrupulous elements. And also, I think a few months or thereabout, he championed, or he's championing, still championing a particular cause. He said it's called it a door-to-door, door-to-door, let's say, is there appointment now, door-to-door teaching of democracy. He's also campaigning for extension of this present administration here in Nigeria. How much of a fugitive is he?
Again, illegality is on the loose. When you mention Tompolo, when you mention Tompolo, your mind will go back to all manner of criminality in Nigeria.
All right, so thank you very much.
So on what ground will such a person be talking to you and you are listening?
All right then. Thank you very much. Let's come back to Sheson now. Let's have now we understand that there was a meeting in London. Suspended Governor Siminalayi and Fubara went to meet the president in London. And from the information that we gathered, Wike was not privy to that. And we hear that he was unsettled by the meeting. So if we're going to take the statement of Tompolo, take it to heart, let's also x-ray the statements that have come out from Bode George, where he's been, speaking to the governor through the media that, look, don't jump ship. Don't leave the PDP. Don't leave the PDP. Don't leave for the APC. Because there are speculations that from that meeting, Siminalayi might be moving, just like Uboriwori, moved to APC.
You can't confirm it, though. We didn't hear what they discussed. So.
Speculations. Okay. There are speculations. So, in your analysis, what do you expect to see in the coming days in Rivers State? Now, we might be talking about whether or not these 6 months will be extended or not, but do you foresee a situation whereby Fubara might move to the APC? And if that happens, where will that put the rift that's been going on between himself and his godfather?
Okay, thank you very much, Moses. You see, one thing I've observed with this government is that we settle a lot of rift outside the shore of the country. And I've always been asking myself, so it seems we lack wisdom here to clear issues until we step out of the shore of the country. Quite disappointing and disheartening that is happening until when you see Mr. President or anybody outside the shore of the country. Possibly it's not safe to discuss some of those things here, maybe because of the gadgets that we have within Aso Rock. But be that it may, what Fubara has done is to look for a way to see how to mend fences. That's what I would say, what they will call the political romance of having your way. And on the part of Wike, not privileged to this meeting beforehand, I would say that Mr. President is a strategist. and he knows how to go about the whole issue to resolve it. Whether Fubara will move to APC, I can't say. Why? Nobody ever preempted that the former vice president aspirant of PDP will suddenly move with his quads to APC. You can't predict. Wike is in PDP as we speak. If anybody says he's working for APC, well, I don't know. The party is still looking at him, but he's a card-carrying member of PDP. So as far as I am concerned, he's a PDP person. So until that movement comes up, because a lot of people bring in some of this speculation, and I can tell you, you can be in your party and be working for opposition without moving. In fact, it's much more easier because you definitely have certain information about the game plan of the people you are working for than you moving completely to the other side. And that's politics on its own. Okay. So for me, in moving to APC, I cannot validate that. But I think there are political romance within that particular space. And I can tell you, if Wike overstretch some of these things, Mr. President always gives shocker. Trust him. Okay. He has given us on this issue of emergency rule. Right. He will give shocker his own, Wike is shocker, exactly. And everybody will. Because all he wants is that I'm sure he has tested what it looks like with this sole administratorship, and he wants that thing restated. But he has just had to pass a message. And if they don't actually put those things in, it will come in with another dimension that will make democracy to thrive in that state.
I like what you said. Like, you are not the first person that has said that the president is a good strategist. You know, a lot of people have acclaimed his strategy. That is a strategy wonk. You know? But I want to ask quickly if you can tell us this strategy, this strategic wonk that he is it only in trying to do what is to maneuver? I mean, we don't see that strategy in the economy. We don't see that strategy play out in insecurity. We don't see that strategy play out in building world-class hospitals or reforming the education sector. So he's been a cute strategist. You know, what is it all about the president being a depth strategist and all of that?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, he's a political strategist.
Okay, it's limited to politics, not to economics.
That's the way I would do, because
so what's the value of it?
He understands the in and out of what politics is all about.
Nigerian politics. So what's the value
you cannot place that on the economy. Okay. As you are a core person when it comes to media who understand the dynamics. You will not come to my space in taxation. I'm saying that Mr. President is a political strategist.
Okay, political strategist.
Who understand what politics and how it should be played. You can now make use of other people if you feel that in economy and all of that.
So he's been a strategic one, doesn't value anything. If he cannot, out of that strategic this thing that he has, he cannot bring out people in the economy to do things, and insecurity, education, and all of that.
You see,
so of what value is being a political strategist?
The interesting thing I will always tell individual is a lot of people will speak good at this side. Even when Mr. President pick, you see, the major problem I feel we have is we lack a system. 2, corruption has pervaded it. Okay. Even the good ends that people have trusted, being placed in a particular position, get daring, and all they do is for their own personal gain because there is lack of system.
All right.
So when you pick the right set of people, Prof, if today Mr. President appoints you, as both of us are seated here, that you come straight to Abuja for a particular position, it is not the same Prof I sit down with.
Do you think I will accept?
I'm not saying whether you. I'm saying but when you accept, if you are. We've seen a lot of people. Okay.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of
but
time.
the truth of the matter is you won't be the same person.
No, you don't speak for me. You don't speak for me. Barrister, is the president a good strategist?
He's not. In fact, strategy is far from him. You see, there is a proverb in my place. They say, when evil is allowed to fester for too long, it becomes a tradition and culture. Because of what Tinubu did in Lagos here, and the Lagos people allowed him. Look at what they are saying. Hey, Tinubu built Lagos. He did it. Where is it? Nothing to show, nothing. If you are saying Tinubu is a strategist, then what will you tell Jack Onde? Who actually built Lagos?
Well, like some have said, he's a political
No.
strategist.
Even the police.
Not an economic strategy.
He's destroying our democracy. Is that strategy? With what Tinubu doing today, Mr. Moses, if another person come and continue from where Tinubu have stopped, what do you think will happen to our democracy in 5-10 years' time? Will you still have a democracy? What Tinubu is doing? All this thing that you people are celebrating is wrong. It's evil. Call it what it is. This is not a strategy at all. We copy this thing from America. Go and watch President Nixon. What truncated his ambition because of what? Watergate scandal.
All right, this will be a good place to anchor this conversation, and I understand we have to let you gentlemen go. Thank you very much, Barrister Darlington Nagumo, and big thanks to Olusegun Okunade. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
It's a great pleasure.
Up next, under Tinubu again, Nigeria now has the largest number of extremely poor people. This is according to World Bank.
It's an achievement.
Let's talk about this when we come back.
It's an achievement.
Everybody keep watching Voice of the People. All right? Love you all.
Hello, sweetie. What's going on? My name is Kiki. Keep watching VOP TV. Thanks.
Hey guys, what's going on? Olumide Oru, the Fresh Prince of Lagos here, and this is VOP TV, guys.
Hello guys, I want you to please keep on watching VOP TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hafiz Oyetoro. Please keep watching VOP TV.
Shout out to VOP TV.
Very big shout out to the fans and lovers of VOP TV. My name is Tayo Fanyuro. I'm an actor that you are going to live to love. Keep watching. Cheers.
Hi everyone, so shout out to VOP TV.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more.
Join me on Sundays every 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People TV.
Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy.
Step into a world where stories unfold, secrets unravel, and dreams come alive. Every story has a legacy. Every legacy holds the power to inspire. A unique interview series that celebrates the lives of Nigeria's elder statesmen and women through their remarkable journeys in the military, diplomacy, public service, academia, medicine, and beyond. Conversation that transcends generations, offering guidance to youth leaders, diplomats, technocrats, and future change makers. We unveil the wisdom, resilience, and achievements that shapes our nation and the world. Join us every Sunday on Voice of the People Television. Reminiscence, legacies that leads the way, stories that lives on.
The red carpets, awards, the razzmatazz, music, fashion, interviews, and more. Spotlight on Voice of the People Television.
Thanks for staying with us. And if you are just joining us, this is VOP This Morning on Voice of the People Television. Now, Nigeria currently has the world's highest number of extremely poor people under President Bola Tinubu, according to the World Bank's Africa Pulse report for April 2025. The report shows Nigeria accounts for 19% of sub-Saharan Africa's extreme poor, equating to 160 million people and 15.25% of the global total. Alongside Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, Ethiopia, and Sudan collectively host half of sub-Saharan Africa's 560 million extremely poor people. The World Bank and IMF warned that poverty in Nigeria could worsen by 2027, despite Tinubu's economic reforms like fuel subsidy removal and exchange rate unification, which have triggered widespread hardship. Well, we are joined in the studio here in Lagos by Mr. Akin Fatuke, and he's a political analyst as well as a communications consultant. Mr. Fatuke, good morning and thanks for coming to this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay, we'll also be joined from Benin studio by Dr. Bright Onovio Kuku. He's a medical doctor, human rights activist, public affairs analyst, as well as a public affairs commentator. Good morning to you, Dr. Bright Onovio Kuku.
Good morning, Mr. Chukuma, Fina, and every other person in the studio. Okay. Good morning, viewers.
Okay, good to have you, Dr. Bright. Now, let me start with you. Dr. Bright, you heard a report from World Bank that Nigeria harbors 106 million poor people in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa. And, I mean, we are at par with countries like Sudan, Ethiopia, and DRC. Ethiopia, Sudan, and DRC, these are nations at war. Ethiopia is not at war, but we also share the same indices with some numbers with Ethiopia, accounting for, these four countries account for the highest number of poor people in Africa, Nigeria in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, World Bank says despite Tinubu's economic reforms that 2027 is even looking very bleak. Dr. Bright, we now share relations with countries at war, even where we are not in a war situation. What does that tell you about Nigeria as a people, about the leadership of this country? Can you help us have give us your broad reaction to everything that World Bank has said? And should we even rely on World Bank? Because this is also a Bretton Woods agency that says one thing. The other time we heard them say, look, Tinubu's economic policies need to be sustained for them to make impact for the next 15 years. Where are we? Where does this leave us? But the reality is that by June this year, about 133 million Nigerians will face acute hunger. But we are looking at 160 million extremely poor people in Nigeria. What happened to us as a people, Dr. Bright?
We may not need whatever we are seeing today has the World Bank indices are glaring because, like we did talk about this before, the issues of economic policy of this current administration, until it begins to manifest in the life of the common man, then we'll understand that things are actually changing. But as it is not. Let's look at some indices that we can use. Let's look at about 70,000, where some states are also struggling to even make up that 70,000 to pay. The average needs, basic needs of the common man in Nigeria, how much can that 70,000 go? So that is enough to tell us that things are actually not okay the way they are. Some time ago, we were having a discussion and somebody said, oh, minimum wage has increased from 30,000 naira, 35,000 to 70,000 naira, comparing this administration to that of Goodluck Jonathan. And I asked one simple question. What 30,000 naira can buy during the administration of Goodluck Jonathan? Can the 70,000 naira buy it? As at that time, we can still get rice at a certain amount of 7,000 or thereabout. But today, you can't even get rice for less than 80,000 naira. So at the end of the day, you discover that people cannot even make ends to meet. And We are not even seeing salaries being increased or business growing. Instead, some business are being closed down, while some are being forced to downsize. So at the end of the day, the indices are not...
Dr. Bright, very well then. A lot of people, especially people in government, are also, like this particular government said, look, our economic policies are yielding fruits. They are making results, like the removal of the first subsidy, the exchange rate arbitrage, and all of that. And the president said, look, go and ask the governors, hold them to account. They are receiving 3 times more than they used to receive before because I removed first subsidy. So in all of this, why is it that the numbers are going down instead of going up? Look at inflation. We are still grappling with inflation, despite the fact that governors are receiving more money. What could be responsible for it? Is it that people in government see differently from what we see? Do you have an explanation for that? I mean, governors are clearly getting more money. And like the president keeps saying, go to your governors and ask them, what are they doing with the money? How does that impact the macroeconomic policies of this administration? I mean, governors receiving more money. Is that enough to say, look, because governors are receiving more money, inflation should drop, exchange rate should come down, interest rate should come down? Is that enough explanation for the government to give?
You see, governors are receiving more money. But the question we need to answer is that the monies they are receiving, what is the value? What is the value of that money that they are receiving? You know, it matters a lot. I made an analogy just now. Somebody can say, oh, Dr. Bright, take 100,000 naira for your upkeep. What I need for my upkeep is a bag of rice, is this. Meanwhile, the 100,000 can't even buy a bag of rice. So the question is, fine, the money may have increased, but what is the purchasing power of that money? I don't want to exonerate the governors, because even the little ones that they have not been able to demonstrate enough accountability and judicious use of that money. But as the president, he shouldn't tell the city. At the end of the day, on easy lies the head. He's the one that is at the head of affairs. So you should see that whatever policy is having, because again, they should also let us know we have short-term policy, we have long-term policies. Which of these policies are they even talking about? If these policies are well implemented, Nigerians should feel it. Fuel subsidy removal.
All right, then we seem to have a network glitch.
It was removed. Agreed. Though he was one of those who were the school of thought that there was no fuel subsidy in the past. Now, fine, he has removed it. But again, how has it translated to affecting the lives of Nigerians? It is not policies on paper. It is policies on real life.
Yes, thank you very much for your take there. Let's bring it to the studio now, where we have Mr. Akin Fatunke. Let me ask you, since this administration came into office, came in with promises to revive Nigeria's economy and, you know, put things in place and see that Nigeria takes its pride of place in the Committee of Nations. But then the subsidy removal on the very first day seemed to have had some sort of negative effect because the economy has been going down. Is it the removal of subsidy and the problems that came from it, or the policies of this administration that is not really seating well, that is putting Nigeria as, you know, one of the poorest in the region, in Africa right now, according to IMF and the World Bank? What would you say the problem is here?
And that is where we'll take it from Moses. The same IMF, Ms. Guavani, has had to apologize. I hope you've seen that. If you've not seen that, I think I have seen. Where Nigeria said you cannot be speaking from both sides of the mouth. And in any case, where you are looking at policies, they were policies that you have always supported. Those are policies that right-thinking Nigerians, let me say, when I say right-thinking Nigerians, I mean people in policy, including all the political
parties agreed that Nigeria is highly distorted. We are living in a bubble. We are borrowing. We are not productive. And something has to happen. Akin to where you want to do an emergency. It's an emergency patient. You don't want this patient to die, but you got to go through excruciating pain. So from the onset, she said, yes, there are two sides to look at issues. Right policies to stop the bleeding, to bring in discipline. Globally, we are having a lot of distortions, high debts, we are having high interest rates globally, so it is not just in Nigeria. In the Nigerian specific example, I am not going to change tax here. Those policies are the right policies. They are very painful policies. However, I didn't see the kind of character and prioritization that we expect. I mean, I agree with my grandmother. There were times when...
Sorry to interrupt you now. You talked about, the policies working, but then the global space, things happening in the global space. Am I accurate here?
I'm saying what is happening in Nigeria is happening globally.
Okay, what is
so
happening in Nigeria?
there are global shocks.
Okay.
Okay, high debts, high interest rates. And I disagree vehemently, not necessarily because I want to close my eyes to it, that you put Nigeria at par with Chad, you put Nigeria at par with Afghanistan, you put Nigeria at par
with Sudan,
with
where
Sudan.
We have,
it is not true. It is not true. And please, I don't want us to get into an argument.
No, we're having a conversation here. It's not an argument.
It is going to get into an argument.
No, it will not.
It's already getting into an argument. I'm not talking about you. Go out there and see what's happening in the public space. It is not right. Nigeria has stood up to it.
Don't you think whatever is happening in the public space is because of what
I am making the point that
don't people say are beginning to feel like
Nigeria,
look, they don't have
Nigeria is going through a hard trough. But please don't say...
Is there no truth in that?
No, he's not the one saying it. It is World Bank that is saying it.
Is there no truth in the fact that people are struggling with food?
He read something from the World Bank and he has put it to me. So I am saying the World Bank has openly said and saying that we are at par. No, that's not true. We are going through tough place.
Do you have records, Mr. Aki, to counter that?
Does IMF have records to say what they have said?
Of course they do.
Is the reason why? No, excuse me, please. Is the reason why I said we won't get into an argument? The person that made that statement, the IMF managing director, has apologized. And I'm ready to state that. So let's go.
Mr. Akin, do you accept the fact that IMF also told Nigerians, even when they were doing this summer break, that they projected their GDP to fall for 3.2%, but it ended up being at 3% this time around? A whole lot of persons applauded that move, saying that shows that the economic challenge that some persons projected that Nigeria is having have not really gotten to the level that is supposed to be. Do you accept that report?
Why would I not accept the report?
But you failed to accept the report coming up at this point in time that,
please,
560 million people in sub-Saharan Africa have
folks are supposed to be gatekeepers. If you know all the answers, you don't need to have to bring me here.
No. We're asking questions. You have asked me.
You seem to have a defensive outlook.
It's not a defensive outlook.
No, that's exactly
I am an economist, and you don't throw numbers out there without me trying to interrogate it. I am not saying Nigeria is not suffering. I'm not saying we are not that suffering. I was going to the point that I said, don't equate Nigeria with Chad, Niger, Afghanistan.
Why do you say so?
I said so because it is not true. We are not at the same line.
Look, we are not the ones saying this thing. It is World Bank that says.
Yes.
And in one breath, you agree with World Bank, and in another, you disagree with them because it doesn't suit you.
No.
So what do you call that?
No.
That's exactly what you are doing.
That's your narrative. I said, because I spoke in English and I was clear.
Yes.
World Bank has prescription for economies like Nigeria, given a global shock, that we will have to go through the hard trough. Unless if you, as people are saying, we are not going through hard trough.
Now, what's the difference between what is happening in Nigeria
However, what World Bank has said, which aligns with what you are saying, and which I have also agreed with, is some of the implementation are not showing the kind of character. There are so many other things that come into play that we have an emergency situation. You don't have it? We have.
All right. Then.
However, the prioritization is just not right. And
All right,
you should have allowed me. You should have allowed me to land on the issue of prioritization. So if we are hungry,
you had enough time. Let's get.
You have shot me out,
Dr. Emmanuel.
It's okay,
Dr. Emmanuel. Let's get Dr. Emmanuel into the conversation. Dr. Emmanuel, do you think Nigerians should consider World Bank or IMF here? Do you think they're putting out figures that is, causing more problems with Nigerians? Are they putting out all these things out there to cause more problems?
You have said it all.
No, I haven't said anything. I've only asked the question.
First, you just said it. You just said it. But that's actually what I'm going to adopt. You just said it, and I'm going to adopt it wholeheartedly. While there may be some truths in the statements as they have pushed out, in my view, we need to find out something. And Nigerians will be very careful. What does the IMF and World Bank represent?
Thank you.
Whose interests? It's a very important thing for us to know. We must not be gullible. It is truth that Nigeria has not done what she ought to do, and she's continually drifting downwards. But that's the same World Bank that at a point in time will tell us every other thing is good, and in 1 minute when they think that certain things are not happening with their paymasters or their sponsors, they begin to change their mouths. The World Bank and IMF are part of the person that led us this far. And if you must know, I am completely anti-World Bank and IMF and everything that comes out from them. But having said that, the Nigerian poverty is real. And the fundamentals are what we're not tackling.
Okay, now do you also
Policies
have...
are not just dished
Sorry
out
to
to
interrupt
work
you
on their own. I'm coming, sir. I'm coming.
We're working within a limited time frame, so
yes. I want to drive something. I want to drive something we need to know quickly.
Okay, go ahead quickly.
Policies are not just sent out. Nigeria's real problem is the fact that while we are growing, usually there's a link with population and poverty. While we are growing in population, we have failed mainly to produce food equally. That's the simple truth. You may try with the other figures. The gentleman that spoke earlier, Bright, gave a scenario of the value of money. What I bought in 1980 as a young worker with my salary that was less than 75 naira. It's a different thing altogether with what people buy with their money today. The poverty we are having today is the poverty of food.
Now, Dr. Emmanuel, is there anything different from what the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, and Sudan is experiencing in their country from what Nigeria is experiencing at this point in time?
Far different. You wouldn't have been here if you were in Sudan. You won't be where you are now talking. So don't do the comparison first and foremost. If you're in Sudan, you'll be afraid of what will fall on your head in the next minute.
Because of the war that the people there in Sudan has been experiencing, is that what is that the reason for that?
You don't find that in Nigeria. That
because of the war, right now, bring it back to Nigeria. When people in this nation are being killed, to start with, people in Nigeria are being killed. Now, are we not having a full-blown war again when it gets to insecurity in Nigeria over what we should actually have, as the case may be, which is peace relatively? We have people dying in drones in Nigeria, and we have headers. We don't even know where they're going to get to at this point in time. Even in the south where you are seated, something can happen tomorrow, and you never can tell what is happening. People are being asked in Nigeria to pay levies. We learned that the likes of George Bello also declared that I think 60 billion naira to be paid by people in their locality, or else they'll be sacked. And we see that happen in Nigeria.
Insecurity is a different thing to what we're talking about. If you want to say that, let me also say one thing. The world over, there is no secure state. The world over, if that's what you want to take. I'm not a pro-insecurity person. The headers are a problem. We have it. We also knew the genesis. Politicians have done the kind of things they've done that have put us into this mess. And we too have helped that situation. We only shout when it gets to our own. When these issues start, most of us feel very relaxed. It is the archaic attitude of the people that have resulted to this state we are today. I am not one that will stand there to say every other. Yes, government has a responsibility. But to what extent have the people taken on their own responsibility?
You mean the people in IDP camps? Those people are the ones that are supposed to take over the responsibilities? Because what we're getting, for example, in Benue State, we learned that a particular local government is already wiped out. We have 15 council and all that. We have IDP camps, Dr. Emmanuel, in so many states in Nigeria, as the case may be. We have people that are supposed to be producing food in Nigeria now, not being able to have enough to eat. They have been living on the mercy of those who want to do charitable organization by sending them food to eat. These are people who we know that can go into the farm and cultivate and bring out food in large chunk in Nigeria. In Plateau State, for example, people are being killed. They don't even go to farm again. In Benue, the same thing.
I am very sure you will agree with me. I am very sure you will agree with me that first, the word IDP is not our language, any Nigerian language at all. So when we flay it up as if it is ours, it becomes something very funny. The word IDP is not Nigerian.
So remember to button at this moment, Dr. Emmanuel. Doctor, when you say that insecurity is world over, I know that you are very familiar with the Fragile States Index. If you talk about Fragile State Index, this is a measure of economic, political, social, and cross-cutting indicators that denote or determine the disposability of states.
Fragility, go ahead.
Yes, of states to unravel and explode into warfare or something like that, like you have in Sudan, like you had in Somalia and all of that. And consistently for the past 15 years and more, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the Nordic countries have always been in the first 1, 2, 3, 4 positions. So now do you compare their level of insecurity with what is going on in Nigeria, in DRC, in parts of Africa? When you say that, sorry, let me learn. You said that there is insecurity world over. We are looking at the degree of that insecurity. So are you now saying that
while I cannot compare the security level of Nigeria to Norway, I could also not compare the security level of Nigeria to Sudan.
Okay, now Fina just made points here. People are being killed in their numbers, massacred in cold blood in parts of the Benue Plateau. Is that different from what is going on in the Congo or in Sudan?
You just mentioned the Benue. What's the population of Sudan? What's the population of Nigeria?
No. What is the population of Denmark? What is the population of Norway and Sweden?
So let's get certain facts straight.
Let's do, sir.
Because when we make the mistake of exaggerating, please do not misquote me. I have not said Nigeria is a safe haven.
No, you said there is insecurity world over. You said there's insecurity world over.
I'll keep repeating it.
And I'm asking you, what's the degree of insecurity in Nigeria and in Norway?
My quarrel is an attempt to think that Nigeria is worse. My quarrel is an attempt to compare Nigeria with Sudan.
Okay, Dr. Emmanuel, we are running out of time. What I want us to establish...
You all the time yourself.
Sorry, what we are trying to establish here is the fact that, look, when World Bank says that Nigeria shares position with Sudan and DRC, they are looking at the economic metrics, not about the peace or war situation. In terms of inflation, in terms of exchange rate, the other time our naira was at par with that of Sudan. It has nothing to do with warfare. It's just clear. So when they say that we share position with...
Your naira will keep dwindling depending on where you want to send your naira to.
So does that make a difference between us and Sudan? That is the question.
It's not your currency.
Dr. Emmanuel, does that make a difference between us and Sudan? That is the question.
No. Your naira, and indeed any currency, the value will be dependent on where you want to push your naira to.
That is not the point. That is not the point. The point is that your naira and the currency of Sudan at the international level are at par. What does that tell you about your country?
It tells you that our country and indeed Nigerians have lost focus on where they need to put their naira.
Case settled.
I told you here that my salary was
no, it's settled.
I never used that money, for instance, to buy food. And I succeeded. Today, your salary is used, 99.9% of your salary is used for food. So you need to ask yourself, how do you grow food? Today, if you build a house, the first thing you do is to interlock your floors. You seal it.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel. We'll go for a short break. We'll go for a short break. And when we return, Tinubu faces increasing pressure as hundreds die in rural violence across northern Nigeria. Join us again.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more.
Join me on Sundays every 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People TV.
Maritime Frontiers.
Interestingly, over 50 communities across 25 council wards and 5 government areas of Benue State have been displaced by armed headers, according to the Benue State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. Where West local government is the worst affected, with all 15 wards impacted. Other affected areas include Guma, Gwe East, Kwande, and Makodi local government areas. SEMA's report details how headers have occupied several communities, forcing residents to flee. Thousands of displaced residents now live in 13 official IDP camps, with some stranded for over 8 years. Meanwhile, rural violence in northern Nigeria has killed over 150 people and displaced thousands, intensifying pressure on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We still have with us in the studio Mr. Akin Fatunke, a communication consultant and an arbitrator. And joining us from Benin is Dr. Bright Ondoverkuku. He's a medical doctor, human rights activist, and public affairs commentator. And also we have Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iruyanama. Also, he's a socio-political commentator and an advocate of good governance. These gentlemen help us to dissect this topic. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of today's show. Now, interestingly, let me start off with you, Dr. Bright Ondoverkuku. We were talking earlier about the IMF and World Bank report about Nigeria, and some persons were like, we are anti, okay, the likes of Dr. Mario said he is anti-World Bank or IMF, but it's interesting to know that the chunk or the large sum that Nigeria is working on today is being borrowed from World Bank and IMF also. We've not really looked away or tilted to the direction of getting more or another way of revenue generation in the nation, rather than borrowing, and all that we know today is already nosediving. I'm talking about the price of it, projected to be at $75, but now it's at $59. Now, Dr. Brighton Overkiku, what do you have to say about the incessant killings happening in Nigeria as a nation? Dr. Brighton Overkiku, can you hear me?
First, yes, I'm on it. Well, IMF policy, you know, we've over time complained about the way they go and how it has actually not helped Nigeria as a country. But however, if we don't agree with their policies in terms of helping us to develop, because they encourage more of borrowing instead of us actually producing to emancipate ourselves from their feather. It does not also mean that if we look around ourselves and see the issues around, and it tallies with the reports that they have released, is something that we should not look at who is the messenger, but the message that they have brought. Nigeria is not at war, but again, we have indices that aligns with countries that are at war. If, yes, whatever thing that is going on is not happening in our environment, that does not mean that it is not real. If people are going to survive based on, let's even say, farming, many of them have been sacked from their communities by bandits. So what happened? Are they not going to add to the number of persons who are impoverished? People have been pushed from their comfort zones. News all over the place of communities being sacked. People cannot even do business the way they're supposed to do business. will all those things not bring about poverty? But the messenger, let's look inward and see to what we can do. These are things Bola Ahmed Tinubu for this, because ever before he became president, these are the things he has been agitating for, wanting to fight against, wanting to work on. Now he's on that seat. We should not expect anything less from him. Whether the report is coming from World Bank, coming from IMF, or coming from anywhere, we should look around and see, whenever you go to the market, that you ask yourself, how many persons around you can actually get this? Then you also ask yourself, what it's taking you to even get that amount of money in a country where security you provide, electricity you provide, almost everything you provide for yourself.
All right then.
And the enabling environment to even get the resources are not available.
All right then. Thank you very much.
And somebody is saying that we should not be compared with countries that are.
Well, we're talking about we've shifted focus from comparing Nigeria to
even if we are not
Sudan
at physical
and the rest, but we're talking.
War, we are at economic war.
Yes, we're talking about insecurity and the killings going on in some parts of Nigeria now. We might just tie that to economy, the economic aspect of things and the rest. But let's come to Dr. Emmanuel now. Dr. Emmanuel, we know that we've had a serious insecurity in recent times. There's been a resurgence of insecurity in some parts of the country, with hundreds killed weekly. And it seems like, yes, the president came back from his vacation and his working leave, and then met with the service chiefs. A lot of Nigerians were not privy to the conversations, even though we heard that marching orders were given to the service chiefs. But then, right after that, we still see some people dying. Don't you think that this might lead to political instability if not properly addressed?
I agree with you. It's a dangerous trend. It is something that we actually need to do a serious review on, as it were. Marching orders have been normal for us. We've been hearing marching orders for God knows how long, and yet the results therefrom is nothing to write home about. My concern is very simple. I expected the National Assembly to have sat down to review what has created the porosity of our borders. The so-called cross-African free movement thing seems to be one major thing they need to look at. Do we get out of it for some time? Can we actually be concerned with what is happening in Nigeria to say, look, we can do the sacrifice as a country, as an independent country, to say, look, for some time we intend to stop people from outside, whether you're African or whatever, to just get into our country without a check. We had a governor telling us that the persons that they found were actually speaking a particular language from somewhere. How did they get into the country? They got into the country because there is African free movement, something that have allowed them, for which you could not stop them, as it were, that we signed into. Our people are dying. We need to do this topic. The issue of merely using gun every other time, giving marching order, go and kill. Yes, you will kill. But people are coming in continuously, so it's actually nothing. There is something they're gaining. Not to talk about the political dimension. If we check very well, there's a trend. 1 year, 2 years to every election, this kind of violence increases to a very high level. What are we doing towards that? Who are the persons responsible for importation of these persons? What are they coming in for? We need to look at it. I remember in Benue, for instance, before Alia came in, it was the immediate past governor that was abused every that day as being incompetent. Today is Alia's turn, and Alia is the one crying now. Who is responsible? Who wants to take away from Alia? What is the agenda in that state? We need to ask ourselves. In this country, we took over the oil and gas industry as a government thing. While the gold and other mineral resources that are produced else in the north are left for certain persons as it were free of charge. Are they the person that are promoting this crisis in those ends?
All right. All right.
We need to answer these simple questions and begin to tackle them head on.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel. We need to come back to the studio here where we still have Mr. Aki Fatuke. Mr. Fatuke, we have a situation where Nigerians are being chased out of their communities. It is not just happening in Benue Plateau. The other day, the governor cried out that, look, more like 3 local governments, people have been chased away from their communities, and foreigners are now living in those places. Those communities renamed. The other time, we had 19 communities, villages chased out in certain communities in parts of Enugu State, Ehiamo to be particular. Like 2 weeks ago, the Shehu of Borno said, look, Boko Haram is in control of 3 local government areas in the state. And in all of this, what we get is marching orders. Do you think that the current APC administration led by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that the political will to fight insecurity is there? Do you think he has done enough, as a president, as a commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? On those states, the Southwest is not spared. People are killed. Farmers are killed by suspected headers and all
As you respond to that, I would also want to know if you believe that people are being killed, or you think we are just putting out these figures to make this administration look bad.
Of course, people are not being killed.
People are not being
killed. We are not being killed. So go on and go on and be satirical. However, I will get back to serious talk. It is not a Bola Tinubu. It's not an APC. It's not a PDP. Mr. Emmanuel is getting into something and he has laid it out. And your question was, are Nigerians being killed? Who are these Nigerians? Are we Nigerians? Are we together? Do we have the same way of looking at things?
No, his question is
please allow me. The political way cannot be there when you have clobbered strange bedfellows. Like he said, in certain areas, you put control. In certain areas, you leave the borders open. In certain areas, this is a political Nigerian question. Nigeria is not Nigeria in the way we are pretending that Nigeria is.
Sorry, Mr. Please, we have not always been like this. Between 1919 and 20,
I can tell you for sure. Time will not permit me before you shut me up again. Look, it go back to 1960. We are different. We are different countries. We are different tribes. Let's come to the brass tacks. So, whoever then comes in as a bricklayer, if Jonathan comes, he will do his own. If Buhari comes, if Almighty Obasanjo came, he will do his own. We are only just trying to stitch. We, unfortunately, like he asked me the question, as we are speaking, I pray I'm wrong. People are still being killed. People are going to be killed tomorrow. People are going to be killed next tomorrow. After 2027, let Peter Obi come and become president of Nigeria.
What has Peter got to do with
this? Please allow me.
No,
allow my talk.
Allow you. What has Peter Obi got to do with this?
Allow Showore. If you have patience, listen to me now. Listen to me.
We are talking about...
If Showore becomes president of Nigeria, if Atiku becomes president of Nigeria, if Obasanjo comes back and becomes president of Nigeria, this will continue because we are not handling the fundamentals. We are different countries, and until we all come together. Now, in the plateau, like Emmanuel said, that earlier is facing, we all knew, you journalists knew, that there were issues of ethnic cleansing. Some people from the south who were in that government at that time were kowtowing to a particular part, who have now told you that without them, you cannot get a president. Are we saying we are not listening? I'm going beyond. You want me to respond if Bola Tinubu is effective and all that? Yes, of course, it cannot be effective. It cannot be effective because he has allowed the coalition of the lie that we keep on talking to ourselves all the time to continue.
Right,
until we now wake up and say the king must not dance naked. That is it. Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Well, this is where we have to anchor this conversation for today. Unfortunately, no time for concluding thoughts because we are absolutely out of time. Well, big thanks to Mr. Akin Fatuke, who is a communication consultant. A big thanks to Dr. Bright Onyevo Kuko, a human rights activist and public affairs commentator, and also Chief Dr. Emmanuel Urayanama, social political commentator and advocate of good governance. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and your thoughts on the program. But that's it on the show. The show will make a return same time tomorrow. But join us again at 10 o'clock for newspaper review. On behalf of my colleagues, Chukuma Okoro, Fina Okechukwu, I am Moses Humphrey, wishing you a beautiful day. Bye for now.
To know the happenings